My power just.
His power just went out. This is brilliant. You better plug in that Yeti.
Oh my god.
want me to
Greetings
go?
and yes, please.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome once again to the Capeless Crusaders, your number one, not allegedly, source for all things comic book related on the internet and everywhere else we could kind of find the information. As you can tell, I am not the Azori one, Anthony Steves, because of course he's having issues. Brilliant.
Hey, look.
Brilliant
Hey, look. I'm going to go on the record and say he did a great opening. He did a great opening. It was one of the best openings I've ever seen. Believe me.
It was very Vincent Price, right? Did you feel that energy of greetings and salutations?
And again, I don't know what goes on with the setup that I have. Josh set this all up for me, and every time I've turned this on, there's always something that's like it's not connected to the right thing, so they're not feeding correctly. So I'm, before I was like, I can't hear you guys now, but anyways,
now you can.
We're here. Steve's headphones are dead.
Super dead.
He forgot to charge them while he was using them all night on his OnlyFans or something. So he can hear us, but we can't hear him. So
this is even better than the update, the Nerd On update on Monday, because Josh becomes more and more animated, and now Steve's is just trying to like interpret and mime things, and that's a sketchy bag. Nope, I don't trust the bag.
Those are the beats.
Okay, over the ears. We're going over the ears. But of course, as you can tell, I am not the Azori one, Anthony Steves. He is the muted man in the corner. Or actually, he's directly above me, I guess. So the muted man above my head. And of course, I am Amy, Amelia. You can find me at IGNURobot on the varying social media platforms. And alongside me, I guess he is technically to my this way, is the one and only... I'm going to give you space for your introduction.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm not muted, and I'm just here along for the ride because I'm not like a Steve's who's the smartest man here, who's watched all things, read all things, listened to all things Sandman. He's way more intelligent than I am. That's the topic of tonight's of conversation. He's the smartest one. He knows everything about Sandman, but too bad we'll never hear him. So this is not about him at all. It's about me and Amy now. So sorry,
Heck
Steves.
yes. I mean, because of the endless at this point, I think Tom, you might be Destiny. And then that just would make him what? Despair? He's not really a delirium.
No.
He's gonna angle for desire.
Maybe.
Even though he really wants to be Dream. I'm death at this point. I'm just too freaking cheerful.
I mean,
like, hey guys.
Audio wise, he's destruction. And we can't find him. He pieced out, and we were like,
"He's the product.
Where'd you go? Where'd you go, man? You're like that one that we keep talking about, but we never say anything about."
Uh-oh.
Oh.
There was noise.
Oh God. Oh God.
Oh no. He's coming up.
Hello.
Oh my God! Back off! Your gain is so high.
He's all up on that sock. I'd like. What? It's a sock. Oh God!
The gain is low.
Okay, but you were all up on it.
Up on
I
it.
know.
On it.
Oh my God.
How's that?
That's good.
Yeah.
Hey everyone.
Steve, you want to continue off? We were waiting for you, Prodigal.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome once again to the Capeless Crusaders live.
At the time, from the Digital Safe House.
Fuck. Yes, I'm the smartest man alive, I guess. The Zorian one, Anthony Steves. That's Amy, smartest woman alive.
Hey.
There's Tom, Captain, my captain, who just talks lovely about me on camera, but not behind camera.
I just challenge you.
I mean, how else will we grow if we are not challenged?
Oh, thanks, Amy.
I mean, we saw you work all your audio magic, so we're really proud of you at this junction.
Went back to
2020,
2021 Steve's here. The old voiceover Yeti here, all right, which very gainful, I guess. Whoa.
Why are we here, Steve's?
Why?
Why are any of us here?
42?
To pursue our dreams.
There it is. Thanks for watching, everyone. We are going to chat about all the things regarding Neil Gaiman's epic graphic novel, The Amazing Sandman, excuse me. We have, in one way or another, all of us here are huge fans of the one, the only Mr. Neil Gaiman. We kind of worship him, the happy wizard, as we call him, as opposed to the grumpy wizard that is Alan Moore. So I think we've all been introduced to him at different ways, different outlets, different medium, excuse me. Amy, I know, has been a Neil Gaiman and Sandman fanatic for
a while.
Since her young age.
I like Englishmen, and it helps that this man is aggressively English, but also writes really, really well.
Beautiful voice that this man has, and writes extremely well. Tom, your introduction to Neil Gaiman? Same as Amy?
Stardust. The movie.
Yes, the movie with Claire Danes
where Daredevil disrespects Superman hella hard.
Oh yeah, and he has blonde hair. Henry Cavill.
Do you not realize that's Henry Cavill in the beginning of the movie?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's also, what is it, Serena something or other?
It's not Mia Sorvino, or no,
No, it's not Mia Sorvino.
No,
because Claire Danes is the star.
That I remember.
Then we get
Michelle Pfeiffer as Lamia.
Yes.
And then we get Sienna Miller.
Sienna.
Sienna.
So what the heck? Wait, what? There's a guy named Bimbo Hart. There's an actor named Bimbo Hart who looks.
Is he one of the pirates?
No. Okay. No. Well, okay. It's a picture of Charlie Cox, and I was like, no, that's the same man.
Hart. Hello, Charlie Cox, now forever known as
Bimbo Hart. So you got
Hart's little brother, Bimbo Hart.
You got Daredevils in there. You got Wasp Mommy, or Catwoman, whichever one. And then you got Superman. And then you got Ben Barnes. You got Glass Man. And you got Mark Strong. You got the Sinestro one day. And then Dr. Savano the other day. Yeah.
We get Peter O'Toole in there as well.
Stardust. Stardust was the first one.
Did you not see it as Steve's?
It did. I forgot. It was at the school program movie. I remember many of those characters. I didn't remember Peter O'Toole was in there. I forgot about that.
That was the first one. I wasn't actually a fan of the movie. I think the best part of the movie is Robert De Niro's character being a flamboyant captain or pirate. So I think that's the best part.
With these shoes.
No, it's more like, with these scarves. I mean, after that was, I think, the Sandman comic book. I think we did it one time for Crusaders, maybe. And then maybe we never recorded it, but that's when I got into it. And then learning about the Endless, I was like, I just did a deep dive and all that stuff. And then Masterclass, and then Graveyard Book, and then knowing that American Gods and Good Deeds, Bad Omens is a thing. I never watched his other shows. I only watched some of Sandman.
So you haven't watched Good Omens either?
No, you keep reminding me to.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
So what about how about Coraline?
I have seen Coraline.
That's Coraline. What it is.
Yeah, I have seen that.
That's where I started, because at the after school program we showed Coraline. I did not know about Neil Gaiman being the author of the book. I just knew about the movie. And I did not know Neil Gaiman by name until we started the podcast, when we brought up Sandman. I had never read it. I was given the first 3 volumes by a coworker at the fruit stand, DJ, and I hope there's no way to contact him, because I did give him volume 1 back, but before the Exodus, I still have volume 2 and 3 to this day.
Oh,
so there's
you have a Dollhouse, which is great.
And Dream Country. Yeah, I have those that I still have to read. But I did read volume 1, and And then when American Gods was coming out as a series, I got a hold of the audiobook and listened to it before the series came out. American Gods was a fantastic series. I need to finish it. I'm not done with it yet, but I finished the first season in the middle of season 2. Just mind-blowing series, that one there. And then Amy, of course, telling me about finally reading the audiobook. Before I got the audiobook, masterclass, like Tom said, his masterclass is phenomenal. There's even a chapter on how to write comics. It's fantastic. And now here we are with the Dream of the Endless, Morpheus. So on this episode,
before we get into that, I do want to bring up, since we only tapped on Coraline, he has a cornucopia of children's books that are not only delightfully spooky, but also just charming and wonderful, including an entire series called Chew, which follows a baby panda who sneezes really loud and can destroy things. It's absolutely adorable.
I think I've heard of this. I've not seen it, though, but I've heard or read it.
And one of my oldest favorite books from like second grade is called Fortunately the Milk. It is it's illustrated by the illustrious Scotty Young. It's actually been the rights were bought ages ago. It's supposed to have been in pre-production for a while, so it's lost in the abyss currently. But it follows the story of a dad who's gone down the lane, which that's also another one of his books. A lot of actually his short stories and novelizations have been turned into films or movies or other things too, including How to Talk to Girls at Parties. But Fortunately the Milk is a story about a dad who goes down the lane to get a bottle of milk for his kid's cereal.
Yeah.
And he takes forever to come back. And
he goes on an adventure.
And there's dinosaurs and vampires and time travel and aliens. Vampires. It's literally written as vampires. It's all V's. Yes. So it is delightful. But of course, Neil Gaiman is accessible to everyone and anyone, much like comic books. So on this episode, Steves, I do apologize for barking in. On this episode,
don't apologize, because you have the largest wealth of knowledge when it comes to that area than myself, for sure. Tom's read more than I have, so maybe he knows more than I do. Amy, never apologize for that. So tonight we are going to discuss all things the Sandman comic, the audiobook. I'm lagging, huh? I can tell by Tom's face.
Terribly.
You are Alpha 5, baby. You are Daft Punk. You are.
Yeah. All things Sandman comic, audiobook, and the Netflix series. In that area, I did finish the series. Tom and Amy are almost done watching it, but they have read and have listened to the audiobook. So
we also need to establish that the audiobook we also need to establish that the audiobook that Steves is referring to is actually the audio play and not the audio book. So this is the dramatization.
Yes, the production.
Which is super flippin' delightful, and we'll go more into depth about that. But of course, as Steve's saying, is we are foregoing comic book news, movie
round the
news,
horn,
shenana news, beep beep, flip the table. Not today.
Not today. Today it's just Gaiman and the Sandman. So with that said, as I continue to be distorted and choppy, first things first, let's talk about the effect the graphic novel had on us.
Amy?
I went silent there because I have no idea what I'm looking right now.
I was like, hold up. Is that we're playing past the mic?
Yeah, popcorn.
I'm watching. I've got my data on my phone and I'm watching the Twitch feed, and I'm
with the
seeing
2-minute lag.
So I'm kind of like slightly tapping out. Yeah, I'm seeing it. Yeah.
All right. So I will more than happily go first. Of course, my first exposure to the Sandman actually happened a little bit later in my teenage years. I was aware of him, of course. Neil Gaiman has been a wonderful staple in horror and sci-fi, in history and mythology. He is the happy wizard, as Steves has mentioned. So For me, reading Sandman, the first time I actually cracked open one of the singles, because I do have singles, including a first run, first print of the number 1.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm toot. I have issues. I remember being taken aback because of the art style. It was, of course, printed in the late 80s, early 90s, and it felt a lot grittier, which is consistent with the time. And initially, I thought I was going to hate it, to be very honest. For me, comics has always taken a place where I need to connect with both the art and the story. And sometimes you can limp along with an amazing story and terrible art. And the more I read through Nocturnes and Preludes, which is the first arc, I ended up kind of just falling in love with this world. It, of course, in the comic books, melds the DC universe because Vertigo, well, Dark Horse.
DC, Vertigo.
Now, yeah, so it's Vertigo. Sorry, my brain went Dark Horse. And I'm like, they turned it into DC Black Label, but it's Vertigo. So it's under the umbrella of all DC Mighty. We don't want to talk about imprints. God help us. So it melded that great connection of DC characters that I was aware of and a story about an endless being that just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and we all suffer for it. So, needless to say, this piece of work made me appreciative of the aspects of horror that I could actually ingest at the time. I've gotten better, much like the person with the plague in Monty Python. I got better. I'm not dead. I got better. This really kind of started setting the stones, as it were, for me to be able to move forward. Tom, should we have a Steve's go?
I think the Steve's looks smooth right now, so I'll try. We'll try.
Okay, Steve, sit it.
Hi, guys.
You're good. Keep going. Keep going.
Sorry, I was in the middle of an internet speed test. The comics, The Sandman, was one of our early days of the Cables Crusaders. It was one of my homework assignments where I'd my
Sorry.
my round the table. Oh, that was you, round the horn.
Sorry.
And it was different because it was probably the most out there graphic novel I had read at that time. Like everything I had read at the time was always vigilantes and superheroes, or I don't even think I got to Hackflash yet. Like before that was probably Witches, Scott Snyder,
Witches,
and Six Gun Gorilla.
Oh, okay.
Was probably the most out there I got. So Sandman brought in this other realm that loosely tied to DC characters. Like they made cameos, and it was just so like intriguing the way it was written. Like I couldn't put it down. Morpheus literally looks like a young Neil Gaiman, what Neil Gaiman would look like if he drew himself. That's Morpheus. And so seeing it, I got giddy when he stops by Arkham Asylum and there's Batman putting someone in prison or whatever. But just the travel, the journey I went on with it, like I couldn't put it down. I finished the volume 1 insanely quick, and I was amazed by it. And that's what made me a Neil Gaiman fan. But instead of just knowing who he was, that made me a fan of his, and that's kind of what got me into American Gods. But it's just the art of it, like even the drawing illustrations felt, for lack of better terms, dreamy. Like it felt as if I was in a dream. The way
surreal.
They were brushed, the way he looked, surreal. Thank you.
Good job.
It was so well done, and that is the reason I will now venture into comics that are considered out there beyond me because of Sandman.
I have like I don't know what it is. You know how like someone keeps doing the same thing over and over again about the same thing. They like a chef like, that's the greatest thing I've ever eaten, or like a critic's like, this is the worst movie I've ever watched. I'm gonna say this. This is a really good comic book if you want to get into comic books to start reading comic. Like this is like, because to me, and that's, I always feel that way because I feel like every first step is a good step. And then for me, the way I got into Sandman, I did it backwards. I was just doing up the lore stuff. I was like reading up on like like Batman storylines, and I think I maybe looked at like what's the most powerful being in the DC universe, like a Wikipedia search, and then I was like, oh hey look, there's Necron, or hey look, there's the Monitor, or hey look, there's like these like lantern beings. I'm like, okay, and then it's like, oh hey look, here's Superboy Prime, and then they're like, hey look, there's the Endless. I'm like, ooh, that sounds fucking badass. And then I was like, let me look this up.
Endless.
And then I was like, ooh, there's Death. Like, ooh, the embodiment of Death. And I'm like, it's a girl with an ankh. What is this? And I'm like, oh, there's Dream. And then there's Dream. I'm like, okay. It's like, Dream is Morpheus. I'm like, Lawrence Fishburne? No, what? And then I was like,
I was waiting for it.
The downloading audio software? No. I just started like, this is the Endless. There are these brothers and sisters, and they all start with the letter D, and they're just constants. And like one thing that really latched on my brain was like learning that like Death mentioned she was there when Krypton exploded, and I was just like, oh, this is super cool. And then I got into like, what is the Endless? What is this? And then it's like, oh, you have to start reading the Sandman. And then I was like, the guy with the gun that shoots and makes people sleep. I was like, no, that's a different guy from Wiz Comics. And I'm like, okay. And then it's like, and he actually interacts with Sandman because he uses the same. I'm like, okay. And then I was like, okay. And then going into like knowing what Sandman was, and I never fully read the thing, but then like I ended up learning like, oh, I don't want to spoil it. No, I was gonna say it's like maybe there's more than one Dream, but I'm not gonna spoil that because if you see the look of Tom Sturridge as well as the 80s comic book, like it's a pale man with black clothing. Imagine what he would look like if he was a pale man with white and gold clothing, but still with eyes that pierce like stars. But yeah, that's just it was like, oh, and I love doing that stuff. I did that with Spawn. I've done that with like Deadpool, where it's just like you just do these deep dives on these characters. And then I really liked that historian aspect of it, where like, oh, now I get to learn a little bit more about Neil Gaiman and like how he wanted these characters to kind of interact. And like stories with Martian Manhunter really interested me because like we don't hear about him too much, even though to me I'm like, he's probably one of the more interesting characters because he's like Superman except without the heat vision, and he could transform and he has telekinetic abilities. I'm like, come on, man, like give me some of that. And then hearing how his meetings with the Endless and all that stuff. So I was like, okay. But anyway, so reading the comic book and then the audiobook was just like, oh, like I remember like, and that was such a cool thing. Is like, I'll always say like I love my experience. Is it the best experience? I don't know, but like I really enjoyed like knowing like the lore and where I was gonna go, and then reading the comic book, and then listening to the audio production and being like, oh, I remember these images. I remember all this stuff. And then hearing a voice to it, like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then going to a live action and be like, oh, wow, like it's very vindicating, as well as seeing all these people who are like, oh my God, I love the Sandman. And then I'm like, you should read the comic book, or you should check out the audio production. And, now, in the nicest way possible, all you filthy casuals get to enjoy the wonderful things that have been waiting for you to pick up. And the interesting thing, I think a lot of people are like, oh my God, I've never imagined that I could see such things, that this was imagined. And to me, like, I'm not trying to lower it on a lower pedestal or anything. And I was like, but man, parents out there, if you got little ones, get them on some anime real quick, baby. Like, I'm not saying like, hey, here's a way cooler thing, but man, like, the thing that Sandman was able to do is tell cool stories within realms and in different dimensions, but the different dimensions and the visuals weren't the most exciting things for me. It was like, let's talk about this living concept, and you're like, oh, and like, how does Dream like understand humanity? And like, even though like they've lived on for literally since the beginning of life, so eons and eons, one day is still as long as our one day, and love is still love to them. And so like, it's that idea that like there are universal truths of like waiting for something, or being imprisoned by somebody, or loving someone will always be as powerful, even if you are one of the most powerful beings of all existence. And I was just like, yo, that's some that's something you got to drink about. But that's me.
So before we get into the series, I do want to talk about the audio play, because Amy's right. This was more than an audiobook. This was a
production.
It reminded me of the old '50s radio theater that you'd hear in their studio, and they're putting on this performance. That's what this was, to just extremely high level. And the voices they got for this, James McAvoy,
Kat Dennings.
Kat Dennings
is so delightful.
Andy Serkis as Matthew
the Raven.
And even it was different from what I'm used to, but even Taron
Egerton. I call him Eggsy still.
As John Constantine.
Tyne.
Yes, I'm sorry, John Constantine.
They are using the British.
They're using the British. Yes, you're right.
Race.
You're right. Roz. But hearing McAvoy's voice, when I'm so used to it being like a little higher in his other roles that he's played, the level of depth in his voice when he first spoke, I'm like, oh, this is James McAvoy? This is James McAvoy, not older brother John. James. Okay.
When I heard, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, you thought you could capture death, but instead you caught her little brother. I was like, oh, they are dead. They done gone messed up.
Side note, I forgot. Extremely brief synopsis for those who haven't. A mortal wizard tried to capture Death. Instead, they captured Dream. He was imprisoned for a century. He finally breaks out and is now trying to get back what was taken from him: his ruby, his helm, his ruby, his sand, and rebuild his kingdom. That's the opening synopsis of Sandman. I don't want to go any further than that, but that's where we're at right now. Kat Dennings as Death was just so damn lighthearted.
What's the issue? On Angel's Wings, or what's the one?
The Sound of Her Wings.
The Sound of Her Wings, which that title alone, the title alone. Wait till we get to the series, but in the audiobook, it is such a beautiful moment between Death and Dream, because with Dream, being lost, not knowing what to do, losing connection with what he's doing, and she awakens him by having him come along with her as she, does her job when she meets those where time is up. And it's such an emotional moment in that in that performance. It's like bittersweet. It's sad because it's death happening, because I'm looking at it from the human aspect of me right now, but then you see the beauty of it on their side when they see her and they go along with her and the sound of her wings. It's just so, I think I played that part of the audiobook twice just because the way it was done.
Go ahead.
So I can say that's one of, because essentially it functions almost in a standalone story space. You don't really need to kind of know what's preceded it to understand truly what's going on, but it is, Kat Dennings plays Death with such great heart, and it balances effortlessly upon the knife of too serious or too, like, I don't want to say kitschy, but like she could come off as it's too hot, she's vocally too high, or she sounds too childish. And it is the one thing when somebody says, oh, where do I start with Sandman? I don't want to start at the beginning, and I want to just give them a taste of something that is so well written and so beautiful. I recommend that single story, or the Orpheus and Eurydice story that's in a couple of volumes up. But because of the audio play, I was able to literally introduce my teenager to Sandman with that story, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm like, exactly. And then when we get to talking about the series, the tie-in to that is done so effortlessly and so brilliantly. It does exactly what the book did, and I can't not Tom.
Neil Gaiman, Mother's Milk, the ideas of where all the stories come from. But shout out to Dirk Maggs for being the one. Apparently Gaiman and Maggs had been wanting to do the audio production for such a long time. and finally they just found a good time to do it. I think in the middle, like it was released in the pandemic, or was even produced during the pandemic.
It was released in the
Act
pandemic,
1 was in the pandemic,
but they had already been in production prior to the pandemic, and the pandemic just created that perfect storm to be like, you're trapped in your house, let's tell you a couple stories.
And I think the original idea was that they were going to shoot the Netflix one during the same time, so they were going to be almost kind of like released, and so they would kind of like feed into each other, which would have been wild to think about. But I think this was, to me, better because like, whenever new things come out and they're done well, it just offers a new chance for new audiences or even old audiences to like refresh, come back, gain new audience, gain new traction, and then get ready, primed up for like a new version. And I mean, like this, having the rights to making the Sandman has been around since Joseph Gordon-Levitt had done 500 Days of Summer, and he was saying he was going to star, produce, write, direct. And
I remember that.
It was ridiculous, and I was just like, that'd be kind of cool. It'd be interesting to see it. And I was like, that's something that's like not part of a DCEU in terms of like a joint superhero front, but like to me, I'm like, if that was connected to a way, it'd be really cool to just see like, because what Sandman does, and like people who are watching or listening later on, like the show Lucifer is like what that's based off of. Obviously the Lucifer, the show, is just its own thing. It's way, way different than how the Netflix series is, but like they're supposed to go tie hand in hand because spoilers, Lucifer leaves hell and then makes a bar.
Season 2. Season 2 of Sandman. Hello.
But
hello,
I mean,
Volume 4.
The whole show of Lucifer, I'm like, spoilers, Lucifer is not in hell anymore.
John did visit him in the Arrowverse.
Yes.
As well, in like one of the crises
in the CW
crises that the CW series had. We got to see John.
Lucifer.
Oh, John Constantine.
Yeah, I think as a quick aside, if Endgame was super, super ambitious in terms of like how they connected everything, I think the big thing was that they got Agent Carter's Jarvis, right? They got his Jarvis to come in as Jarvis.
They do the Flash. He's with Howard. No,
Howard.
Yeah, it is Howard.
Yeah, he's with
Howard, but it's old Howard.
Yeah, he's with Howard.
He's driving the car.
Yeah, he's with there. But the CW, they got Burt Ward, they got Tom Welling, they got Kevin Conroy. They brought in Tom Welling, but the Lucifer actor is a Tom too. Toms are just
right.
good looking guys. Anyways, and then they got
they are.
And then they got all the people from there. Anyways, but Sandman. Tom Ellis. But no, the audio production, I just feel like I think there was such a gravity to it for me, and I was almost like, this is the quintessential like version that I would recommend people. And to me, I think audio productions, podcasts, that medium is just so untapped for that kind of stuff because it is so good. Like the sound design, and like I had talked to friends who had started watching the Netflix show, and these are people who I made listen to the audio production, and they were kind of leading into the live action. I feel like there was a little bit of a letdown because obviously they're constrained by budget and a little bit of like the practicality of how to do certain things. Most particularly is the introduction of Constantine's character, and how when we visit the friend / ex, the walls are covered in flesh, and it's just like this nightmarescape. And here, it's a lot more toned down, but like you think about it, and that's why I'm like, get your kids watching some anime real quick, because there is, I think, a threshold for mainstream audiences that they can't handle too much weird stuff at once, right? And so it's like, I think a lot of people who I'm hearing, they're like, oh my god, I was so blown away at the idea of like, dreams as a world and all these super fantastical things. And I was like, we live in a world where like Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings and video games, Legend of Zelda, like we have so much fantasy out there. But then to me it's like, I feels like, man, I just wish people could kind of also take the pill of like seeing like universes and multiverses and idea, and like just the idea of like, hey, this Sandman is in the DC universe and it's a multiverse, so like these characters are echoes of other characters that you might be familiar with. So like Joanna Constantine, think of it as John Constantine, but in this universe, this is the modern time, and Joanna is the one in this universe, is the Hellblazer. And it's like, I feel bad with the show where I was just like, they're gonna show Astra. I'm like, oh, Astra, every time. Just like Ben Parker, Martha, and Thomas Wayne, just like, every time, gotta go away. I'm so sorry. Because that was the whole thing in the Constantine show. It starts out with Astra, and like Astra is just like this trauma he has, and then I'm like, guess what? We're starting with Astra. I'm like, oh, so sad. How many times?
Exactly.
So going into the Netflix series, which as I saw today, now it is #1 in 89 countries. It was 80 last week. Now it's 89.
Is that true? Because I saw like another graphic that was like, Never Have I Ever was #1 in all these countries, and then Sandman was #2. And I don't know if it means like for different audiences it's #1 or #2. Look, I want all shows to succeed. It's not a battle. It's a collaboration.
That was the last thing I saw today. That now it's 89 countries. It's been #1 in. Now, as the series came out, they did make some changes, given that there's a lot of different things with the DCEU right now going on, and the best way to get this made kind of not involve certain DC characters. Which we don't see Martian Manhunter in the series. We don't stop by Arkham in this series, and of course the replacement of John with Joanna. Now, as someone who is the Matt Ryan, John Constantine fanboy, I didn't have the uptight the tight undies
Britches.
up my crack britches issue. I didn't have a problem.
It's because you're not a little baby cuck.
Thank you. Exactly.
Don't kink shame. Don't kink shame.
He's saying he didn't have a problem with Joanna
because he's not a little baby cuck.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
Yep.
I see what you mean. You're not a little. You're not a little baby bitch. There you go. I replaced.
That's better. That's better. Amy, keeping us accurate.
I only use cuck so much because of Kevin Smith, and I realized the only time he uses it is to explain like how he's like, I would just let that happen like as if I was a cuck, and I was like, I get it. I get it.
He's doing it a positive way.
Yeah, and I'm being a bastard.
Bring it around.
Keep going, Joanna Constantine.
I was intrigued because I knew right now we don't know if we're going Keanu, if we're going Matt, if we're going somebody completely new. The best way to do it is, hey, let's make a different universe Constantine where it's Joanna now. And she did great, I thought. She had her own spin on the character. And she's kind of less grungy, but still duplicitous. Constantines are. And I thought she did great. I thought the introduction of her was. I think it's funny that her coat is white, whereas like Hans is kind of the khaki coat. So it's kind of. I thought that was little changes there.
They gave her some style, and also this is a modern time, so people have cell phones, which is different than the comics.
Exactly. I thought she did great. I loved the approach they took. I thought it adapted very well. And again, I'm going to go back. First off, how far are both of you in the series?
I'm right up to the end of the serial convention.
Okay.
So I'm pretty much almost to the end.
You're just about to the end, yeah.
John D is at a diner and just ruining
24/7.
Ruining everyone's life.
He did the 24/7 episode. 24/7.
Which I will say this. I will say like again without a spoiler. My God, you know what's so good and that's the thing about the show. Like, you know what's so good about that episode is that you are given one character you know of that you're not really familiar with, and you're kind of not supposed to like, and then you get all these characters that you don't know. And how they get you to like learn little things about every single person and what they want, what's important to them, where they're going, what to hurt them. And then they were like, now let's just destroy them as people. I was just like, wow. Like, and this is my thing. The stupid gaga doo-doo caca take that people have like, I didn't like Eternals because I didn't understand what each character was doing, and I need an origin for each character. Like, you don't need that. You just like,
if you want it, read it.
You don't.
But even then,
read it.
But even then, I was just like, like I just oh, he's gonna get the burger. Oh, he's gonna be late for the interview. Oh, she's waiting for the like I was just like, oh, I know what's
They're
happening.
having the sex. They're gonna have the sex.
And I was like,
that was me. Sorry.
So super fun fact. The person who plays the CEO, the woman, if you have seen Good Omens, you may recognize her. She is Pollution. So she's actually one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse in Good Omens with David Tennant, Michael Sheen, you know, another Neil Gaiman and Sir Terry Pratchett. Beautiful, beautiful piece of work.
That, Tom, for bringing that, that's my second. Hold on. I think second or third favorite episode of the series was the 24/7 episode. My first is, again, the same as the audiobook, Down of Her Wings. I forgot to say real quick, the show was developed by Neil Gaiman, David S. Goyer, who is one of the minds behind the G and the Blade trilogy, and Alan Heinberg, who wrote the 2017 Wonder Woman film with Gal Gadot. Those are the three who are behind developing this series. But episode 6, Sound of Her Wings, with the actress playing Death, who I just looked up her name a while ago, Kirby Baptiste. I knew what was going to happen in this episode, and I still watched it, and I had a frog in my throat just because the way they did everything, the visual of it, like with Kat Dennings and McAvoy, I got to hear it and kind of visualize myself to see the faces of these characters. And when she approaches the old man who it's time to go, the baby scene, which they altered very slightly from the audio, not a lot, just slight. But it was again tough, bittersweet, sad, heartwarming, all at the same time. It goes from there right into the friendship that Dream makes with the gentleman, I forgot his name, in 1389.
Robert Gatlin.
Thank you. And
he also
letting
goes by
him
Hod.
Live forever. Yep.
It's 100. It's every 100 years. It's every 100 years. He gets a renewal every 100 years, like his car registration.
Exactly. And the scene of when they have their argument, and Dream says he won't be here 100 years later, and when he goes in 1989 and Dream doesn't show up, I felt fucking sad for the guy. Like, you see his face, the friend he's known for now, by that time it was what, 500 years, that isn't there now. And then when we go to present day and Dream's looking at it and it's torn down, but then he goes down the block to the pub that's there, and he's there, and it was such a goddamn great episode the way they filmed it. I loved every second of it. If 24/7 gave us the fucking bitterness of what humanity could be if we took away, what he called the lies, the dreaming, episode 6 was the restoration of humanity. With the importance that we can be.
I mean, that's just like the charm. Also, shout out to Ethan for subscribing for 6 months. Thank you for the tier 1 sub. That's the charm, and I think what Amy was talking about is like with all his work, there is some sense of, no matter how heady or how dark or how horrific or how fantastic, I guess there's always this like approachability that all his work has at every point. So like you get into it and you're like, Sam's like, so fantastical, I don't want this. I don't like too much fiction stuff. Or it's like 24/7 is too dark, but then like you get these like glimmers of humanity, and like I think that just shows in his DNA of storytelling. And like, the masterclass of Steve's, like the number one thing that I love quoting about him is like, it's funny when he's asked criticism. He's like, what do you think about these characters and where they're going and how do they relate as people? It's like, they're not people. They never existed. They're never real. And it's like, do they remind us of somebody? That's wonderful. But these are fiction. This is lies. And it's like, and fiction is the lie we use to tell the truth. And there is that simplicity and also detachment you have, and we have with those characters of just like, they offer such wonderful not even mirrors, but I imagine it like the mirrors in Mario where like you can go into them and then you can dive in and explore those worlds with those characters where they do offer some kind of a reflection of ourselves, but a deeper dive. Yes, Steve's.
Amy, I'm going to go to you next real quick to say that's where the grumpy wizard and the happy wizard, I think, differ. Both excellent in what they tell, but where Alan Moore shows us how bad humanity can be, Watchmen, V for From Hell. Neil, as dark as things get, there's still this underlining that is there, like with episode 6. I feel there's more hope with Neil than there is with Alan. What Alan writes is bad. Alan has a point behind what he writes. I just feel with Neil, I get less darkness from Neil than I get from Alan. Human condition.
Go, Tom, go.
I will hop onto that a little bit and just say, but also Killing Joke. Because what is the theme of it is that no matter how destroyed Jim Gordon was, he was never going to turn off. He's like, you cannot kill Joker.
True.
And then also
you're right.
I've been going through a lot of emotional stuff and work and journey, blah, blah, blah. But like the one thing that I've been really kind of thinking about, like what's something in my mind, you know, turning the negative critic in my head into something positive is like create a new character in my head. And the new character in my head is Dr. Manhattan. And it is the thermodynamic miracles.
Okay.
It is.
I was going to ask which Dr. Manhattan we talking about.
I mean, obviously, I love the HBO show version, but like thermodynamic miracles, and that you know this daughter aspires this son, and this person, and this mother, and this person gets married. But then it was just like, and then you, and then it's only you, distilled into all that chaos, and it's like it's beautiful. It is like turning air into gold. It is the thermodynamic miracle, and I think about that all the time. And it's like, well, isn't that everyone's a miracle? It's like, yes, so many miracles at the same time that we tend to think it tends to just overwhelm us, and we don't think it's important, but they are. And you're like, it's a lot to think about, where it's like everything's important and yet it happens all at the same time. And then like he's like, that's enough for him to be like, you were right, you know. It's like, let's go home and let's go sit. It's like, oh wow, like, you know, but anyways, Alan Moore does offer some semblances of like humanity is great, but like Neil Gaiman, I think, just offers sometimes a little bit more in I wouldn't say it's a lower window of entry, but it's more like it doesn't have to always comment on society.
Correct.
But it might have something, but it still has something to say.
Yeah. I do like when Amy catches my nonverbal communication because the eyes widen and there's a smile. About Dr. Manhattan. I'm going to Amy next because
what's wrong? Did I trigger something? Did something go wrong? What happened?
You did nothing wrong.
Oh,
I did this when you said Dr. Manhattan.
He made a giant penis joke.
And Amy had giant eyes, unsealed smile.
I'm like, Amy. Connect. Tom
a baby's arm holding an apple.
There it is. Thank you.
Oh.
I could have made a salmon reference.
Salmon.
Real quick. Ready?
More like a slammin'.
Ready? This came from a coworker at the fruit stand named Henshaw, and he was talking about how when he first saw Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine, and he was explaining how Logan just jumps out of the water, clawing shit, salmon slapping everywhere. Does that sound? That's how he describes
I'm used to that. I'm used to that more than like, oh, the salmon.
So now it's an
randomly I just hear that noise and I know what's going on, and I'm like,
the salmon slapping. It's just Wolverine running naked. Anyway, Amy, I'm going to you because you have made comments about the amazing job the series did of incorporating panels of the comic into the show. The one that stood out for me is from the 24/7 in the hand, Dream's power. That was adapted perfectly. Where else did we see moments like this that you've seen so far in the series?
Are you joking? Do you want me to point them out in each episode? Shall we do this?
Don't. We'll be here for 10 hours.
We will be here for so
as Morpheus
fucking long.
We are in the hand right now.
Do you know what?
And now Amy
let me give you a gentle nudge towards the right direction, dear viewer.
Nudge me gently. Nudge me gently.
Oh, Ethan.
Oh, Ethan. So now I'm thinking of Mandy in my head. Gosh darn it, Barry Manilow. So,
Mandy.
if you actually want to get a better sense of what panels inspired or moments that are literally ripped from the comic books, Netflix on their Instagram have actually been putting them, the panel up on the top and then the scene on the bottom. So you're seeing the first moment when when he's sitting in his doom bubble. That's a panel. When he gets pulled into the circle and initially knocked out by Burgess, that's a bubble, or a panel. When he gets taken back into the dreaming, that's a panel. When he's dealing with the gates, that's a panel. When you see Nada, that's a panel. When you see,
you know what they should do?
So
whatever Warner Brothers DC
the outcast literally at the very, very end when they're talking with Lucifer, I literally before we started showed the exact panel from volume 3. Like, come on, Steves, don't do this. This mean.
It's
this
a lot.
Mean.
It's a lot.
It's mean. And I didn't even get to talk about things. No. Whatever, loser. Like, no, we're not doing that.
That wasn't what I was doing. No, I wasn't doing that. Oh, sorry, that's not Wu-Tang.
For the kids.
For the kids.
Ethan had a question in the chat, but before I get to Ethan, I wanted to bring up someone I forgot to mention who did a fantastic job, and that is Miss Gwendolyn. Amy, you always do a good job. But Gwendolyn Christie, who played Lucifer Morningstar, she was phenomenal in her performance. I thought it was perfect the way they described her in the comic and the audiobook on being this beautiful figure with these disgusting wings. And that woman was fantastic in Game of Thrones, so I was excited to see her appear in this, and she killed it as she always does, I thought.
Can I also... Yeah, go ahead.
So what I was going to bring up is that the original introduction and design that Neil spoke about for Lucifer in the comic books is... Anybody?
Blonde.
Bill Paxton.
Young David Bowie.
Yes, that's right.
Young David Bowie.
All I know is Lightbringer.
Yeah, so it was young David Bowie. And in casting for this, they knew they weren't going to be able to get David Bowie. R.I.P. You wonderful, beautiful human.
Tesla.
They wanted to get as close to as possible someone that gave off that ethereal. What did
Galadriel. Come on.
Well,
man.
it wasn't even full Galadriel energy, but it was like strung out. I think he used the term strung out space angel was originally what he was going for. And she gave such presence, such bearing, which that sequence in the series is different from the graphic novel as well as the audiobook, but it is done. Oh no, there's salty Toms.
I just think about Beelzebub, and all the other demons, but yeah.
Well, exactly, because there were the 3 dukes. So in the book, we're gonna aside really quick. In the book, there are 3 there's 3 dukes of hell, Lucifer Morningstar being one, because Lucifer could not actually handle there was a couple of uprisings, and Lucifer's like, it's okay, we're gonna split it up, everybody gets a chunk, it'll be perfect. And so when we get to the contest, it is not a champion chosen, and Lucifer is not the champion. It's actually Corazon the demon who goes head to head against Dream in, which I thought was hilarious, a comedy, like in a comedy club, and they play the I am, essentially the I am game. And yes, it is there's a good chunk of things that were transitioned or changed in the series to better reflect the current time, but also to maintain and create bridges from story to story that were necessary. And while they change some of the way you feel about characters, it does not change the actual journey that Morpheus is going on.
Not at all. Nope.
rolling it back real quick because I didn't get to comment on this. Initially, when the change for Joanna Constantine was coming out, I was like, what about Lady Constantine?
Mm-hmm.
We want to talk about her. Like, we're going to need to talk about her. And I have a thing for, again, well, I don't like Jenna Coleman, and it's a Doctor Who related thing. And if you are deep Whovian in the lore, you know where I'm coming from. There has never, and I will briefly go into this because I need my baby rant. There has never been to date a companion that needed their hand holding during a regeneration process to have the companion stay with the new doctor. Like, we transitioned from Matt Smith, where she was all goo eyed about Matt Smith, to Peter flipping Capaldi. And she's like, nah, he's an old dude. I don't know who he is. I can't be around him and be his friend and help him. And I'm like, ooh, there was some wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, germy bermy shit that went on to get Jenna Coleman to accept the doctor. And I was like, nah, girl, we don't play that game. Anywho, so I don't personally like her as an actress. In juxtaposition of her as a Joanna Constantine, she brought in a completely different flavor than John does. And while it gave more space for the empathy and the leading of Morpheus to accept and acknowledge humanity has always needed him, it is it's fresh eyes. It's a new way to approach it. I still have a massive soft spot for John Constantine, considering also that he knows everybody that he touches, he cannot be with. He's got to leave them. They will all end up in ruin. And so you were dealing with that you're dealing with the gruff exterior, soft interior thing that we didn't get with this Joanna Constantine, which does not make me upset.
Yeah.
But it helped feed into stories that gave more momentum. So, perfect example, The Sound of Her Wings. It made those moments where in the audiobook and in the book, there is a large monologue by Morpheus that he's going through. He reads a song that was written about death and all these other things, and they've given a good chunk of that story, those words, to Death actually to say to Morpheus. So it makes it more palpable and more present, and it gives a better understanding from what Joanna Constantine has said to Morpheus, kind of like it's building that bridge. Simultaneously, that's where I'm going, guys. Simultaneously, the story that follows right behind, like the 100-Year Man with Hob Gadlin, is not even connected technically in the books. They're just in different places. They serve essentially as a one shot. And I loved how they took that momentum from Death, even mentioning Hob, and built it into the full story. And you've got to experience that continuation of character, that continuation of humanity, that continuation of hope, and giving a more human outlook, a more human soul to Endless, which is something that seemed to have been failing Dream for so long. He's there to serve them. It's his purpose. It's what he's supposed to do. And in juxtaposition, he is grown discontented because, of course, he no longer has the access to the vengeance that he so craves. He's, really white Batman. He's emo Batman. Like, I don't know. Goth Batman, emo Batman.
Not quite as gothic as The Undertaker, but something along the same
I was like,
line.
we already have our Pattinson being emo as shit, so. And we're friends.
Hey, he white.
He white.
He white.
But so we end up seeing that Death in this gives such levity and such hope, and understanding, where she meets them at the level, humanity at the level of their worst, their best. And I love, and I will bring it up for forever till the day I die. Everyone asks Neil Gaiman, like, why did you create Death to look like that? Why does she look like her? Why is she a teenage girl? Why this? Why that? And he goes, I created Death to be the type of Death I wanted to meet at the end of my days. And I'm like, that's it. You want someone who will sit there and hold your hand and tell you it's going to be okay, and say, hey, come with me. We'll be together. It'll be okay. And I think that meets such a great, it meets everyone kind of where they're at, but it also gives wonderful just credence to Neil Gaiman being a a storyteller in a way that, in juxtaposition, as Tom was saying, to Alan Moore, he does not need to make the commentary on society. He needs to make the commentary on humanity and hope, which is
There
a
it is.
continual running theme in all of the Sandman, the Dreaming, the whole jam.
The one thing I also really liked about the Endless is that we'll later see, other than I think Desire, a lot of them really tend to just like, even though they're the lords of their own domains, they really care about the opposites. They care, like, so Dream really cares and understands like that Dream has power over reality, and the waking, and really understands that consequence. And where Death, you know, is not someone who's like, ooh, give me your souls. It's more like life is precious. And no matter how short or long that life is, it is precious. You know, and Destiny is very, understands the importance of it, but like really cares about free will and destruction. Same thing with creation. And I thought that was such like a wonderful thing, and that's why Delight turned into Delirium. And it's, you know, seeing how that changes in when you do the audio production, you'll see that stuff, especially in season 2. But like that idea where like even in that sense of like, oh, these concepts are learning about human spirit and soul and journey and trying to understand. It's the thing that a lot of people are like, the difference between Homelander and Superman, right? Where Homelander has a desire to understand what humans are like, even though he was born a human, whereas Superman is like, I'm never a human, but I do want to be understand human beings, Earthlings. Where the Endless are also just like, I'm not confined to my one thing. I'm not just the Dreaming. I also do have power over the world of the waking and stuff like that. And it's interesting, like, to your point of how they change things in the show compared to the book, because in the show they kind of, you know, and there's the thing about visual storytelling, you need to have certain things like a need, a want is external, a need is internal, and the Dream that we get introduced to in the show has an external or an internal flaw, which he doesn't really care about reality. He's like, you know, selfish, arrogant pigs always care about the waking, never really realizing that the dreams is what sets everything in motion. To dream is what allowed anyone to travel to the stars and cure all these diseases, all these things that were because of dreams. And also, you know, again, spoilers, introducing the Corinthian episode 1, you know, like having, to me, and that was the thing, was just like like adapting the medium.
Damn Boyd, my gosh.
Boyd, so good. Boyd Holbrook, he's so good. And
Logan.
When I saw that as the cast, like the casting in this is like probably like, you know, the Hugh Jackman, Robert Downey Jr. level of like, ooh, that's a good cast. Ooh, that's a good cast. Ooh, that's a good cast. Like, it's such a...
Lucien,
that's good. That's good.
Lucien, Matt the Raven. Like, it is the Hecate. Ooh, the incoming... Oh, Gilbert. Do we talk about Gilbert? Gilbert. Steve.
Gilbert.
Yes?
No, I was gonna say I liked the line that happens later on. That's a crow. I'm a raven. Common misconception.
Very common misconception. Can confirm.
But yeah, I mean, I would say. So are we gonna try? We're gonna try to answer Ethan's question.
I'm gonna tackle a few things here. First, Amy is right. 90% of me wants the death that Neil Gaiman wrote, but there is that 10% that wants Undertaker to show up and just choke slam me into wherever it is I'm going, because I'll sell the shit out of it. I'm just saying.
You just get so excited you would turn into the little old violinist who he's like, hold on, and he needs to say his prayer.
Yes.
And you would just be like, okay, I'm ready.
I'm about to get tombstoned. Hang on.
Oh my gosh.
Secondly, Ethan and the
Professor
Fessler said, I agree, Matt Ryan just owns the John Constantine character. I do like the movie story of the movie. I love that very much. But if we're talking about the character, I like the true to the, you know, British background that is Matt Ryan, who owns it more. And I love Keanu; he's great. But I want my Constantines to be British, not American. That's Me.
I'll say
Just
this,
saying.
and that's the funny thing where it's like all these comic book movies now we can kind of see them as like these historical art guys, and it's like I unapologetically like the Fantastic Four with Jessica Alba and Chris Evans. Like it's some people are like it's so bad. I'm like, hey baby, when we had that was all we was getting. That was good. You know what I'm saying?
That's all we had right there.
And I was like, Tom Jane Punisher. That's so good. Just Godfather meets comic book. And but yeah, Keanu Reeves, Constantine. Ooh, Rachel Weisz. Tilda Swinton.
Like I said, everything in there was fantastic.
And I forget the actor's name who plays Lucifer. White suit, tar feet.
Yeah, Peter, not Skarsgård, Peter Stormare.
Yeah, so good.
A Michael Bay favorite who did a lot of Michael Bay movies.
And they got Dr. Moonlight in there too, right? Who's the guy who he makes a deal with, and that's how he ends up going to hell. You know what I'm talking about? He's the
yeah.
He's a thing. He's a thing.
To the Googles you go. Meanwhile, you do that. I do want to comment on Mervyn Pumpkinhead. If you do not know who Mervyn Pumpkinhead is in relation to Sandman, he does make a very brief appearance and is voiced by one of the most delightful and charming voiceover actors we've ever known. But Mervyn Pumpkinhead in Sandman, he's actually the janitor. But he looks like the Pumpkinhead from Return to Oz, if you've ever watched that.
That's what I thought when I first saw him.
Yeah, I knew you did because he looks just like him. But he's actually voiced by Mark Hamill, which is even better.
Oh shit!
Did you not catch that?
I didn't catch that. I didn't. That's fantastic.
The guy's name is Papa Midnight. But go on.
Papa Midnight. Thank you. Who was great in the show, and I forgot the actor who played him, but yes. Ethan had a question earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recommend the audiobook or the comic first?
So it really, and this is my opinion, and of course Tom and Steve might have a different one.
No. You said the comic or the audiobook?
First.
That's what I said.
I thought you said the show.
What did I say?
No.
Oh.
No.
He said the comic or the audiobook first. So for me personally, I originally went comics first. But if you are somebody that loves to listen to like old-timey, like you like musicals, you like old radio productions, you like somebody telling you a story, the audiobook is for you, and it will always be for you. It follows the book pretty much to the T. And also you get the added benefit that Neil Gaiman is also reading to you. Like there's no way to misconstrue how to pronounce something or how you feel about it, because the man that wrote it is reading it to you, and then he has such a stunning cast of characters and actors and creatives that have come alongside him and are supporting your journey through the dreaming. Of course, the audiobook and the series, this is where they do parallel, get you through volume 1, volume 2, and starts to touch on volume 3. That is the audio play dramatization part 1. There is a part 2, which literally you will have to listen to part 1 or read the first 3 volumes to understand what's happening in part 2. So Ethan, whatever way you best absorb media, definitely pick either one. My recommendation would be audiobook. Tom, what about you?
Tom?
I don't give a shit how you like to do it. This is the best way, is audiobook and then comic book. Because I say it this way, you go through, you listen to it, maybe even listen a little passively, right? You may not pick up everything, every nuance, unless you're like me who like I rewind like 3 minutes because I'm like, I need to do that one more again. You know, like when you listen to a song on the radio and you're like, you know what? I didn't really respect that as much as I should have. Let me rewind. Let me put it back one more time. I do that all the time. So audiobook, same exact reason why Amy said it. You get an idea of like how it sounds like. You kind of like hear. Also, you get the narration going on. You get to put voices to it. Like I remember I never heard of Harry Potter until the movies came out. And then when I watched the first two, and then I started this class in school where like you had to read books for like grades and stuff like that, I just read the Harry Potter books. But it was very nice to imagine like, oh, Harry did this, like that's Daniel Radcliffe. Hermione did this, that's Emma Watson. And so when you listen to the audiobook, you can then go you can then go to the comic book and be like, oh, that's how he sounds like. This is the gravity of this thing. And then again, you could all the top exposition-y stuff, you can like, oh, that's Neil Gaiman talking to me and all that stuff. And then you can kind of see it and you're like, oh, that's what it looked like. And then if you want to, it's like a good companion because, Steve's has done the put it on a music playlist, listen to Django and Zorro, and then, peace out. So that's what I'm saying.
And with them, I don't have an incorrect way of which way you want to start. Amy and Tom bringing up extremely valid points on going that route. The only disclaimer I'll give you is you have to have an Audible subscription to listen to it. So if you have Audible,
you don't.
Am I wrong?
All
Okay,
you
listen,
need is
we're
somebody,
live on Twitch.
All you need is somebody.
They're
so
watching.
Here's the thing. Here's
Gaiman,
the thing, friends.
Gaiman's watching.
So here is the thing. This is how we help everybody. We spread wonderful content. We send you a book. If you do not have an Audible, find somebody that does and ask them to send you a copy of this book. That way, you have the opportunity to enjoy the audiobook. And because let's be honest, you're going to want to know what happens next. You will most likely sign up for Audible, even temporarily, and you will purchase the next one. Like, it happens to us all. Don't worry. It's the way that I got a Steve's Ready Player One. He's not. He's gonna pretend like he didn't get that from me, but he did.
When did I pretend I didn't get that from you?
No, I just like to say that.
Way to go, Summers.
Really cool. It makes me sound really cool.
I credit Amy with everything she's told me to read or watch.
No, you don't.
Excuse me. Over the Garden Wall?
Oh my God! Don't
have
even.
Have you finished Infinity Train? Have you finished? Do not bring Over the Garden Wall because there is an ongoing joke that I did not know about. And Tom, I got in trouble 2 updates ago.
The fact you just aired it into the world, I'm like, oh my God, here it comes.
Am I the only Nerd-On fan besides Amy who liked it? Because I liked it.
No.
There's a.
It is literally Ethan in the chat who asks every stream, have you guys watched Over the Garden Wall? And I'm like, homie,
is coming.
We made a podcast episode. We did it already. And it was like one of the first ones. And then every stream I've done, have you watched Over the Garden Wall? And so even if you could watch it 20 times, you could talk about it all the time. And you're like,
a million times.
Yeah. Say it right now.
So also
Amy,
on that note, before we
Amy, I'm always giving you credit. You are the reason we watch Over the Garden Wall, Bluey, and why I got on the Ready Player One train. Okay.
Season 3 of Bluey just came out.
I want to credit it. I want to record it on the Twitch stream. He's the reason for those 3 in my life.
Snippet. Right? Snippet, homies.
Snippet.
Snippet.
What are your reasons of Steve's?
Existing, Tom.
I don't know, man.
The reason he
gray hairs, therapy.
Oh, that's good
yes,
though.
Those 2 main
Heck
ones.
yes, therapy. Heck yes. If Tom is the reason you go to therapy, I don't care. Whoever got you into therapy, get into therapy.
He's who I bring up during therapy.
I mean, as long as your therapist is cool with it.
He's like,
hey, my Corinthian.
He's like, hey Doc, I have these dreams again. Yeah, I had to change the sheets again. Tom was in those dreams. That's why. That's why you brought me in, baby.
Hey, we don't shame here.
No, but I'm just like, whatever y'all got to do, you got to do. Before we decide we go off crazy trains, rails, yada yada yada. There we go. Definitely pick up Sandman. There is an ongoing series called The Dreaming. Everything that the Sandman universe has continued through. Holy crap! How many decades now? I don't want to feel old, but it's enough.
Yeah, I remember when we just started the Crusaders, and at that time I think Overture was going on, and so like
40? Is it 40 years?
Years?
Is it like almost 40 years?
Yeah, they started. Well,
somebody do math. I'm terrible at it.
Yeah, because they were in
89,
the 80s.
wasn't it? Was it 89?
They were the 80s.
Yeah.
89.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, but definitely get your opportunities. Go in, explore this universe, celebrate it. Night Mamba, and then if you do decide that you unrelated to Sandman but want something else before it leaves HBO Max at the end of the week, watch Infinity Train.
Mm-hmm.
Because
That come out this Friday?
No, it's leaving. It's on HBO Max. All 4 seasons are leaving at the end of the week.
Okay.
But yeah, Sandman. Sorry, I got distracted.
Where are we going next, to Steve's?
Well, I mean, we've gone where I planned us to go was
You
talk
mean
about the
where we're going. We didn't need roads.
Audiobook.
No, we
Exactly.
we went there and back again.
The Steve's hasn't been to my cafe.
Will I be there before Steve's has been there?
Before it was the way it is now. Probably.
You will be there before Tom. You will be there long before Steve's actually comes.
Because I'm your real friend.
Oh.
Just give her credit for.
I mean, Storm does appreciate Wolverine a little bit more than Cyclops.
Steve's out here being like, Corey's my best friend. I've never met him. And I'm like, now I'd be like, oh.
Do you play Magic with Corey yet, though? Do we have that kind of relationship?
You know what Corey is now? The greatest friend I've ever had. That's what
no.
Corey is right now.
If you want to hurt my feelings, you say, Corey's the filmic now. Corey's the DC boy.
Oh.
Corey's DC boy. Move over, Tom.
Corey has the ticket. Corey knows where Zacky Snidey lives.
Oh my gosh. So bad.
Before we wrap things up here on this amazing Neil Gaiman Sandman.
Adam Sandler.
And Adam Sandler. Yes. Sandman is port wine. You should try it. Quick non-Neil Gaiman Sandman related news. I'm going to the Wrestle world. Okay, hold on. AEW, excuse me, not AEW. A&E, excuse me. A&E has done some amazing biography specials on the lives of professional wrestlers. They've done Stone Cold Steve Austin. They've done Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Goldberg. They've all been done. This last Sunday was a very special one. It was a biography on D-Generation X, on the controversial, one of those popular stables in the history of wrestling, from its inception to when they took off, to how big they got, to the demons they've had, vice versa, all that. If you haven't watched it, it's on A&E. The biographies are fantastic. I think I've told everybody already in Nerd On to watch it, including Amy and Eddie. Yes, it is phenomenal. It's behind the curtain of wrestling and what made these groups get started and why they got there and what became of them. Also brings up China and how much they all miss her. So that is a fantastic part of it. If you haven't watched it, as soon as you can, it's on A&E. You can watch it online for free on A&E's website. They're all free to watch. You don't have to watch. So thought I'd throw that part of my favorite art, one of my favorite arts, into this conversation. I brought up
Dark Side of the Ring and Vice on Monday night's Nerd On Update.
Thank you for doing that.
I'm plugging. I just didn't bring up the bios.
I'm not yelling. I'm not yelling. The people watching. I already texted all of you. If you don't watch it, if you don't get to your computer screen or your cable network and watch it, then there's 2 words for you. Anyway,
love you.
Love you, Matthew.
That's it. Love you.
Take the opportunity. Real quick, have any of you seen Prey?
Yes.
I've not finished.
Tom, when you get to this cast for inclusion, for representation, my dude.
Beautifully filmed. And the cast.
I just found out about Lars. And why he's pink.
Oh, God, you're a pink Lars?
I'm at pink Lars now.
Sorry, Steven Universe is Steve's. I know you're not here yet, but you're at pink Lars. Has he the hair?
Yep.
The hair?
And the ship.
Yep.
And
the Misfits.
Yes, the unique ones, and Garnet is there now, and so I was like, I get it, but then also was like, why is Sandy living life in good time without me?
Yep.
And Stevani dreaming about diamonds. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh,
so give me. I'm blasting through this. Okay, I have watched.
You are.
In terms of hours, I've watched so much shit, and I've hosted so many shows.
You have. I have been doing podcasts every single night this week so far.
Yeah.
I'm an adult.
And my internet is so good, Steve.
So good.
My movie viewing is just fine.
Yeah, downloading, uploading.
This is the problem.
This is the I'm not the problem.
Not you. It's not you, Amy. I'm not attacking you.
Nah, we know.
Who'd have thought the greatest installment in the Predator series was when you went back in time instead of going to
the
future? But
also being said, like I think that just like even itself, like it just gave the ultimate like MCU formula for this, where it was like, cool, now do feudal Japan. Cool, now do Spartans. Cool, now do.
I want.
Did you see that? Did you see that tweet?
Yeah.
Okay, time it. Before that tweet even like became viral, that was already in everyone's thoughts. That was not original. Because like that's just Deadliest Warrior. And like
it's still good.
It's good, it's fine. Idea. But I'm just saying like that tweet is like, hey, look, we all thought that. Relax.
so here. I know everybody's talking feudal Japan. Let's throw Predator on the latest episode for the Filmlosophers. Of course, because I'm interning with them. We reviewed Prey.
Hold up.
We also have a roundtable question about where would you like to see it. We did not just come up with feudal Japan. There is one that is Airkiss so beautiful. I did not come up with it.
Revolutionary War.
The Azores.
No. No. It is. I don't want to spoil it.
It's okay. Okay. This is what I'm gonna do. Just imagine every Assassin's Creed game and do it the same. It's like
okay,
because it's the same thing. But I mean, not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. But I'm just saying. But
no. But if you want to hear it, because I have one that is super stupid on purpose, and then I come up with one that is like legitimately like you're like, oh, I see you. Are you trying to get that tie-in to like Alien versus Predator? Like we're running that way? And then Spencer ends up coming up with the one I think probably takes the cake. Mm-hmm. And not only is it initially hilarious, but it is like, oh shit, I want to see that. Like I want to see that.
Okay.
So yeah.
Listen to the latest of the Filmlosophers on your favorite podcast.
Also, the title is Prey, Eat and Love.
I love that.
Also, I'm gonna just say this just because we got some visitors in the chat too. Hashtag promote Amy out of internship.
Yes.
That's me. That's me. Interning for 8 months is wild.
I mean, yeah.
That's
I
all
don't get paid.
That's all I'm gonna
say. They keep like saying
who gets paid? Who gets paid?
Nobody. I thought it was a paid internship. They lied to me.
No one gets paid.
I don't even get I can't even get reimbursed for my movie tickets. It's just I'm getting harassed.
Wow.
Like my soul hurts.
Hostile.
Hashtag promote Amy. Hashtag promote Amy. Hashtag promote.
Somebody clip that. I'll put it on.
I'd rather promote Amy than I don't know. I don't know what to do.
There's something. Promote Amy.
I didn't want to get in trouble with any fan. I was like, all right, hold on.
Pump the brakes. Are we also getting any new Jane Unseens coming up?
I think so. I will have to go back and check. I did Joy Luck Club a while back. Mm-hmm. I'm scared to do fried green tomatoes, but it feels like it. But we're also heading to spoopy season, as soon as late as let's be honest.
September 1st.
Yeah. So I mean, usually I wait for equinox and then I'm like hardcore spoopity.
But you can warm up though. September 1st.
So I am. I know. Hey.
Hop on the Steve's horror wagon. Hey. Come on.
I'm sorry. Did I not? I have to check if there's an audio clip of what happened when I saw for the first time Friday the flippin' 13th. And mind you, I have never seen it. I did not know about the ending. I turned white as a sheet and almost passed the cluck out.
Want me to tell you another?
It was not that. It was boat. It's the boat. Another horror movie to stay away from then, because this one actually kind of still haunts me sometimes.
Stay away from.
is Sleepaway Camp, I think.
Sleepaway Camp?
I think that's what it's called. Camp Sleepaway.
There is a list. There's a running list.
Sleepaway Camp.
I am aggressively trying to avoid right now is the Babadook, and I understand. But I can't.
No. You might really want to watch that.
Yeah, you will.
Okay.
It's not that scary. Like the imagery could be scary, but like when you see the human story about it, you're gonna be like, oh baby,
he's so good.
The other thing is I have never done a Nightmare on Elm Street, so I may run through and do
at least the first three. At least the first three.
Yeah.
I mean, spooky season is coming, and there are
at least the first three. The first
there
three.
are
At least.
expectations.
Yeah, stay away from Sleepaway Camp. That will haunt you forever.
I just remembered.
Look, one of my bosses from the film Philosophers in the chat, and he's saying, "I told her, Sleepaway Camp."
There he is.
No,
Don't.
no.
I just remembered that they/them is on Hulu. Is on Peacock. Excuse me.
Which I am wondering if
I need to watch that.
Kevin Bacon is going to end up reprising that very iconic death.
Is they them a remake?
No,
it is a conversion camp.
Yeah. Bacon's
horror
in it.
movie.
Yeah, it's a conversion.
But why is Kevin Bacon reprising a role?
No.
Bacon was in Friday the
13th in the first one. Yeah.
Well, because I was gonna say, I was like, I've heard from mutuals that are trans that they did not think it was great.
That's been the consensus from people that I've met as well.
I haven't read any reviews yet.
So there's that. There's also the Vigil, which Filmlosopher Eddie in the chat has recommended. He did a screening for it, but also it is he said it was one of them that like kind of lasted in his memory and it's stuck with it. He'll probably say something. But yeah, I've got spookies to watch, so definitely for that. But
Don't we have an Orphan installment coming on this week too? The Orphan, isn't there?
Orphan First Kill.
Oh,
yes.
No, I don't want to do that.
Friday comes out. Yeah.
Well, I mean, is Jane Unseen only horror movies?
No.
It's just because we're getting into the season.
Since we're getting into the
season.
It's
August.
September 1st, it's free game. Knock it off.
So for Jane Unseen.
So I guess October 1st is free game for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I'm just saying. Am I wrong with that logic?
No, you're not. But so Jane Unseen, real quick, is not just horror movies. It's movies that I haven't seen, like period. So at one point, I had not seen Aliens. I hadn't seen Predator until the beginning of this year, which I do talk about in Prey. The only Halloween I had ever seen was the very, very first one. So when 2018 came out, I was literally going from the very beginning to seeing Laurie 40 years later in like the most pure viewing of that franchise, which I have enjoyed, even though it still scares the poop out of me. God damn it. I've done, like I said, the Joy Luck Club. I did Rocky. I did The Shining.
Clerks? Did you do Clerks?
Oh, I had already seen Clerks.
Yeah,
I had a mad crush on Kevin Smith for ages.
Yeah, that's right.
Dogma was one of like my favorite ones. I still kind of do too, man. He's so fun.
Yeah, he's delightful.
But yeah, so it's pretty much movies that I haven't seen. I saw Interstellar this year, and Steve was like, "Yes, yes!"
I cried like McConaughey when she posted that. I was crying like him. In that
at the beginning of 2020, in 2020 or at the beginning in October of 2020, I did a horror movie every day of October, which is really hard, super hard, especially if you work at all.
Beautiful.
But that being said, if you're doing horror films, I mean, just saying, if you're doing horror films, I think we talked about It Follows,
which has been a recommendation.
But then also if you're doing classics, The Thing.
I saw The Thing.
Okay.
Seen that one. That was on the list.
The Fog.
The Fog. I did The Mist, not the remake. Which was
the remake.
Wait, which one?
The remake is really good.
Isn't that the 2011 remake?
Tom Jane, right?
Tom Jane.
I have not seen that. I saw the one where, unless it was The Fog, where it's the.
You saw the Fog remake. You saw the Fog remake.
That's with
the
Tom.
Dead Pirates.
Yes.
That's with Tom Welling, I think. No,
From the 70s? No.
Oh no, that's Carpenter. 1980s Carpenter. That's his
Yeah.
original.
That's
But
the
there
one
was
I
a
saw.
Tom Welling remake. Okay,
Yeah, I
perfect.
didn't watch
Good.
that.
Okay,
But
The
Mist-
Fog, 1980. Yes. And John Carpenter's in it, and Jamie Lee Curtis is in it, and Janet Lee's in it, and then 2005, and that's with Tom Welling and Selma Blair. Oh, Selma Blair and Maggie Grace.
Oh.
My boss for Philosopher says The Mist isn't a remake. So
Yes, no, The Mist is not a remake.
Yeah, The Mist not a remake. Yeah.
So I've also done like Trick or Treat. I did The Shining. I did Doctor Sleep, which broke me. It was brilliant,
Dr.
but it broke
Sleep
me.
is so goddamn good.
I had already seen Jaws prior. What else am I thinking?
I mean, I could send you a list, but like, telling you,
She has a list.
It follows One Cut of the Dead.
Oh, I've never seen Night of the Living Dead or Return of the Living
No.
Dead.
No. One Cut of the Dead.
One cut.
Very different. Very different. No spoilers.
But do watch Night of the Living Dead.
Sure.
The 60s one.
Sure.
Do watch that.
But I'll tell you right now,
I have seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Nice.
One Cut of the Dead might be probably one of my top films of all time.
Whoa.
Japanese film, 2019.
Oh,
came
really?
out.
Train to Busan.
Seen that.
Just saying. Okay, we gotta end this show.
Tom.
Real quick, going back to Tom's ridiculous wording earlier. Before I get to my point, as the Philosopher boss says, it's spooky season 11 months out of the year, 1 month for Christmas. Okay, and by the way, I do not put any holidays over the other. In my brain, it's September 1st. Technically, I wait until Labor Day is over, and then it's Halloween season. Because you see, I'm not going on overlapping holidays. Thanksgiving can wait till November 3rd when Dia de los Muertos is done. Christmas can wait their candy ass until Black Friday. Okay? But you can play music whenever you want. Got it, Tom? You got it? Does it make sense yet to you, Tom?
Are you the gatekeeper?
Amok.
Yeah, on Halloween I am.
Amok.
Oh yeah, Hocus Pocus comes out mid-September, so there you have it.
Amok.
Know your role,
boys.
The glorious morning.
I don't know if they're gonna do that. Where it's like, look at the virgin. I mean, what if they just call them incels? Or are they just like
see? Hold on. You know what? 1 minute. Hang on. I don't know what story they're telling in Hocus Pocus 2. My original idea, which I'm good at coming up with ideas but not writing them down, I thought it'd be cool if kids had, instead of bringing them back, had brought out these warlocks, and the only way to beat the warlocks
is bring the witches.
Was to bring back the Sanderson sisters, where it's the lesser of two evils. I thought that was a route they should have gone, but I don't think they're doing that with what we've seen so far.
Why they gotta be lesser two evils?
Well, you need those bad guys to beat those bad guys. That the warlocks are such fucking vicious men that you need the Sanderson sisters to defeat these evil men.
Well, I mean,
hello.
We could always do that, but also I'd like to point out that my Philosopher boss, because I brought it up at the beginning, Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities,
October
the
25th.
Anthology coming out for Netflix, he says it's October 25th, which you know.
You know what? I'm already in the mood. I don't care what Tom says. I'm gonna play my horror playlist when we get off the air. I don't care.
It's happening. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
You could do whatever. You could do whatever you want on your garbage Wi-Fi, Steve.
I will. My data plan is strong enough.
My Wi-Fi sucks, but my data plan is strong, sir.
Watch movies and play music
on a tiny screen.
And I'll go not watch Prey and watch more Steven Universe.
Dude, when you are ready.
There's too many things. Look, you know this. I'm probably gonna do this. This is where
Steven, we will sit down. I'm happy to come back on, and we will have that conversation. We will dive into the feels, the glory that is representation, but also moving forward and giving content to generations that have been deprived of the opportunity and honesty of being true to themselves. We will do it, Tom. This is mother flippin' therapy, and I am here for you, and I am here for it.
Steven!
Steve fucking needs to watch the goddamn show.
Yeah, with your kids. It's actually good to watch with your kids. I would say.
It's good with the kids.
The benefit of being a social media content manager and blogger is you can actually have TV shows on while you're typing. Anyway, that concludes our special Neil Gaiman Sandman episode, which the last
Thanks,
20
Neil.
minutes Had nothing to do with Neil Gaiman, but whatever.
I mean, I can plug that if you want something to just kind of wet your Neil Gaiman whistle and you have never heard him speak, you look up YouTube his resuscitate. Is it resuscitation or his when
Recitation?
you say recite?
Recitation?
I will find out later. But he recites the
Resuscitating
Jabberwock.
is this.
Yes, bring to life.
Well, I mean, he does bring to life
his recital.
Yes, wake me up. He performs. He does perform. Well, his wife is actually a performance artist, so that's very true.
There it is.
But he performs the Jabberwock in a Talgi wood, and he walks through it because it was like a stretch goal for something, and he does it all from memory because it was one of his favorite poems, and so it's there. So support great authors by continuing to consume great works from them. Also, support your small time and budding writers and filmmakers as you can. And how about just your creatives in general? Because, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's she's talking about all of us right now. Us on the screen, a few of you in the chat. She's talking about all of us. Thank you all for tuning in, for logging on and watching on Twitch. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you haven't read, listened to, or seen Sandman, get on one of those as soon as possible, and get on all things Neil Gaiman, as Amy has said earlier, because he is an amazing writer, an amazing storyteller, an amazing everything. So please get to know the guy because you won't regret it. So on behalf of Amy, Tom from Nerd On, Eddie from the Philosophers, Ethan, and everyone else who's watching, on behalf of all of you, on behalf of Manderson, David Barry, Corey, Josh,
Neil Gaiman,
Caitlin, Neil Gaiman, Alan Moore.
Maybe not Alan Moore.
Sometimes. Every horror movie we mentioned.
Dirk Max.
John Carpenter.
Always John Carpenter. We thank you for watching. And as always, we are here for truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. Tom, you know what to say.
Good night.
There it is.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Good night. Bye.
And